the time has come. It is hurricane season. So what do homeowners need to be thinking about as far as their windows and their doors and getting ready?
This year, it is a little bit different than some of the hurricane seasons in the past because unfortunately, there's some manufacturing issues as it relates to just like a lot of the home improvement industry and a lot of manufacturing in any sector is there's some delays this year associated with hurricane impact glass and then the glass to the window manufacturer. So if there's ever a year where it's really important to be prepared early in the season, it's this year in hopes of still getting the products and installation done in time for, the busier time of hurricane season, which is in that fall, late fall.
Yeah. So what kind of delays are we talking about with this?
Yeah, in normal years, generally, contractors can get products within, 3 to 5 weeks. This year, those numbers could be more 3 to 5 months. So again, it's still time right now that we can be looking at installations in the timeline for this hurricane season. But as we get further into the summer, it'll be difficult for homeowners to get the products in time. And that's another thing for people to be very, very careful of is certainly we want to make sure that promises that are made by a contractor can be delivered. So just, make sure we're asking the right questions because you wouldn't want to be promised something that'll be hard for contractors to deliver.
And you say make sure you're asking the right questions. What are some of those questions?
Yeah, just really, if there's ever a time where we have to pay attention to the type of contractor that we're choosing and understanding, again, it's hard right now from the manufacturing, and a lot of companies are having difficulties getting products. So the financial viability of a contractor is really important always, but even this year, it's probably even more so to make sure the company that you choose, in June is still going to be around in September and October, because of if you can't get products, it's hard for businesses to, keep afloat. So it's just really important to know who's ordering the products for you, what that timeline, what the expectations are, and really understand the product and the contractor and have a lot of confidence in both of them before you make the decision.
Now, for a homeowner who's starting to think about getting storm ready, as they walk around the outside of their house, what do they need to be looking for?
Yeah, and that's where things are the same, right? Like the same things that we want to say is the age of the home, be prepared. And another thing is a lot of times that I'm hearing now is, a lot of families in the past have used plywood as a source of protection, but we've seen the increased pricing in plywood this year, which will also make that, and it's harder to get obviously as well. So some of the things that we've done in the past, you've got to make sure we're ready to do, be even more prepared this year. But we want to look at, the type of trees that are around the home, what type of limbs are around the openings of your home, any loose roof tiles or shingles that needed to be replaced, how close you are to some of the neighbors and the furniture and things that they have outside. As it relates to your home, making sure that the windows are sealed properly, making sure that they're operating. And some folks that have hurricane impact windows already, make sure that they're still in good shape and make sure that, there's sometimes there can be signs of delamination. So you want to look for certain things in your windows to make sure that they're still structurally sound and have the integrity needed to withstand a hurricane.
You said make sure your windows seal properly. Is there a way that just the homeowner can check that, or do they need to get somebody like you to come out and check that?
It's always great to have a consultation and have somebody really walk around the home with you to examine things. A lot of times people, for example, folks that have things like accordion shutters, is making sure that they're still operating properly and opening and closing, because you don't want to be in the situation where hurricane is now coming and you don't know if the accordion shutters are going to be able to work as well, because it's been a little bit of time since you used them. So there's some things we can do as a homeowner, and you can inspect and generally look at the condition of the windows, but it's certainly great if you have the time to have a contractor come out just to walk the perimeter of the home with you and really look at the windows and see what kind of condition they are, and give you advice on some things that you could do on your own, as well as some things you might need professional help with.
We've seen a lot of new construction lately. And so if I'm a homeowner and I just have purchased something that's new construction, should I assume that I have hurricane-proof windows?
I would definitely not assume that. Unfortunately, not all new construction is built with hurricane windows, but you would know, most new construction homes, if they don't have hurricane windows, will have a paneled shutter in the garage. So you'll know if you have the shutters in your garage, that's a good sign that you don't have the windows. I've seen some homes where builders put hurricane impact windows on the front of the house for the curb appeal and for people pull up and say there's hurricane windows. And then, some of the other openings aren't necessarily hurricane windows. So again, it's something that we look for. There's a little bit of tests that I do, and I think we've done it in the past with a lighter. If you put a lighter to your glass and you see the reflection through the glass, there will be 3 reflections if it's impact glass, or well, if it's insulated impact glass, there'll be 3 reflections. So I would look for that. If there's just 1 reflection, it's just a single pane window and it's not laminated impact glass. That's just a little quick thing you could do on your own.
That's a fun one. I think we have done that.
Right.
A lot of people thinking, okay, this is really expensive, but there are always financing options with most major companies, right?
Yes, and there are great financing options that are available right now. A lot of different programs. And again, it's a great question to ask the contractor, not only about the window, not only about the installation, but also certainly fitting it into your budget is really important. And there's a lot of different opportunities to do so, probably more now than ever. So that's one advantage this hurricane season.
Yes.
Sure.
And going back to making sure your contractor is legit, there are places that you can check this out. Like there are resources that you can look at or call, right?
Yeah, and I would say certainly we always have the same resources, but one thing that we're seeing now, and we would always be cautioned whether you're dealing with a contractor or anything, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? Like if everyone in the industry is telling you it's going to be 3 to 5 months for windows and a contractor is telling you they can get it in 3 to 4 weeks, I'd want to know how. And by the way, introduce me to that contractor because I'd love to know where they're getting their windows. But it's the same thing. I mean, just like in everything else, use your best judgment and caution when there's this extreme outlier as it relates to the industry norm right now. It would be a red flag for me for sure.
So if we order windows today, I mean, no matter who you order them from, it's going to be 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, it would be, that's a really safe number. Again, anything outside of that range would be a red flag and a cause for caution for me as the consumer. If somebody were promising me something under that timeline, that would be concerning. Yeah. I'm always nervous and fearful for consumers because once they enter into that contract and now it's 2 months down the road and there's no product, what do we do now? You're kind of at the mercy of that contract. So before we get into that situation, really understand the timeline and know where the industry is right now so you make the best decision for your family.
What is the number one thing you would tell homeowners right now as we head into hurricane season with nothing brewing out there for us right now? What's the number one thing we need to do right now?
This year, above and beyond any other year we've experienced since I've been down here, is the early preparation. It's so critical because not only is it difficulty from a manufacturing side, but now once we get to that late fall, the installation cycle has to happen also for companies. So the earlier we can be prepared, we live in Florida. I mean, one of the concerns and risks that we all face living in Florida is hurricane season is coming. It's on the calendar. So the better we prepare, the earlier we're prepared this year, the less stress we'll have come fall when we have the threats of the hurricanes.
Are these delays because of the pandemic, because everybody was doing home improvements, or just a manufacturing thing?
It's a real compounding problem. Yes, there were some things as it relates to CDC guidelines and regulations for manufacturing that caused some initial delays. And then just like in some of the other industries, it's difficult to find labor right now that is willing to come to work. So some of the manufacturers that have been able to open up a little bit from the CDC guidelines and restrictions are now having a real hard time finding labor. So it starts with the glass manufacturer. And if they're having trouble finding labor and if they were restricted early on in CDC, and yes, it's busier now. The last year has been a boom in the home improvement industry for sure. So when you combine the boom with the CDC restrictions and then the difficulties finding labor, it's a significant compounding problem, right? And now here we are into the hurricane season. And it's going to be a problem this summer. And the better we can be prepared, the early we can be prepared this year above and beyond any other year. It's critical that if it's something that the home is needed, start having that consultation with a contractor that you can trust like as early as possible.
Yeah, now is the time. All right. What did I not ask about that's important, or what do you need people sitting at home watching this to know?
Yeah, again, a lot of the things are the same. Patience is also really important. I mean, speaking as a contractor myself, is knowing that, we want the product as badly as you do. I mean, we really want to be able to deliver the products and get these projects and homes taken care of and installed. And just everyone working together, obviously from the contractor side and the consumer side, the more transparent we can all be to really help people see the cycle of how everything goes, and the communication back and forth between the consumer and the contractor is going to be more critical now, so that we all feel good about how the project progresses, and we're reasonable in the expectations of the delivery times. I think that if we can all do that, we'll be able to successfully navigate this and have a good experience still.